Okay, this is episode 3 of the YAFI tutorials. This one we're going to do visualize an attack on some audio from one of the members of Indie Talk. This is John Wen, who does Indie Action Tutorials, which is a great how-to fighting for film web blog on YouTube, and you should seriously check him out. But one of the things he's struggling with is audio, and so he's experimenting a little bit to see how to gather better audio in what he's doing, and I told him I would help him out and take a look at it. So one of the things he did is, in the most recent episode that I saw before I grabbed this, before I tried starting like a month ago to do this tutorial, was that he had started using his iPhone to record with as a second microphone source, so that when he has two people on screen, one of them has a Zoom palm recorder thing and the other one has the iPhone to record with. Now the iPhone had some interesting problems, and the interesting problems you can kind of hear but are difficult to see. And so we're going to use the visualize then attack method, which I've illustrated in my nifty script here. Visualize then attack. And we're going to take a look at the two different forms, the waveform and the spectrum analyzer, to see how to look at those to correct them in the future. So here we go. Let's dig in. I am actually using Audacity. We'll go back up here and to my other tab. Audacity.sourceforge.net is a free audio editor, multi-track, and is Mac, Linux, and Windows, and it's free. Unless you're a developer, in which case please submit code to it to better it so that both you and I can have better tools. But I'm helping out by spreading the word because, although somewhat of a programmer, I'm not that level of a programmer. So let's dig in, take a look. So we've got this audio there, and it's a little bit crunchy, it's a little bit loud, and you can hear it, and you can see it up here. It's peaking, and not only is it peaking, but it is blowing out, and you're losing data because it's going too far. We've gone too far. So let's take a look at how to look at that. I'm going to stretch this bigger, and I'm going to, while I'm taking a look at it, I see that it's peaking, but I don't know how it's peaking. Sound, this waveform only shows volume, but sound is made up of more than just volume. It is made up of a bunch of different frequencies, and it's possible that the part that's peaking is actually a frequency we don't necessarily need, and this is the spectrum analyzer, and we can see the different frequencies. The upper range, the higher frequencies are up top, the lower frequencies are on the bottom, and we can see here that a lot of the peaking, the white hot part, blue is cooler and not as much volume, white is much hotter. What we see is time, and where the spectrum analyzer shows us frequency, the waveform does not. Here we've got volume, top to bottom, over time, and it's a two-dimensional graph. But the spectrum, we get colors in Soundtrack Pro, which I'm not recording, so hold on, I'm going to have to start this over again. Sorry, I'll be back to you on the other side. Actually, I'm recording my microphone, so I will just go like this. We will hit record. There we are. Now we're back to recording again. Let me check to make sure I have some volume here. Yes, I do. Let me check to make sure I have some volume here. And I will take a look at track 2. Yes, I do. Good. Okay. So what we're looking at then is we've got time left to right. Top to bottom now we have frequency instead of volume, and then the color is, if we think of this as a third dimension or a depth, farther away from us is quieter, farther away is blue and dark. The closer it gets, the whiter it gets, so it goes through all of the warm colors to the white. In Soundtrack Pro, it's actually black to white image, and I think it's a little bit easier to see actually in the black and white that Soundtrack uses, as opposed to the colored version that this uses. But we're going to take a look at this because this is what we're using today. Now I can see that there's a lot at the bottom and I want to stretch that bottom out, so we'll use a logarithmic one, which will stretch out that bottom frequency, and you can see that most of it starts below 500 hertz. And if we do a quick Google search for, and I should have had this pulled up, I apologize, for human voice frequency, ability to type, human voice frequency, we will see that it's 60 to 60 is your magic numbers. It's 60 there we go, roughly in the range to 80 to 1100. But 60 to 60 is 60 hertz to 60,000 hertz. But 80 to 1100 is something that we can use to kind of narrow that a little bit more even. But 60 to 60 is 60 to 60 is the full range of human hearing. And so we don't want to ever, if we have stuff other than voices, we don't want to cut off anything higher than 60 or lower than 60,000, which is 60 kilohertz. But what we can do is, since we're concerned with this here, hearing is below 60, and that's here, and there is definitely some white there, but we can start carving into this a little bit. Now I can't hear what I'm doing, so I have to guesstimate, because I am, let's see, zoom, I am recording the audio and not monitoring it so we don't get feedback. So let's zoom, and we'll spread that out a little bit across the waveform so we can see what we're doing. And let's cut into this a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to use something called a, where are you? It's a pass or, Alright, here we go. A high pass filter. This allows higher frequencies through. So where do we want it to cut off? We want it to cut off at, we're looking at 500. The problem is, if I go to 500, we'll take a look at that, we're going to carve pretty deeply into the voice, because if you remember, it was 80 through 1100. 500's right in the middle of that. And so we're cutting off basically all male voices. Now these are males in there, and they will reach into the higher frequencies some, but we don't want to go quite that deep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at 100 and down. And that'll cut off some of the bass, and you'll be able to hear it when we're done here. It'll go a little faster. You'll be able to hear the difference, and it'll be a little bit tinny. And what I would normally do is, I can't do real-time correction in here, but in Soundtrack Pro, we can actually filter in real time, and I would use the real-time functions of Soundtrack Pro to, or whatever package you're using, to be able to preview what we're listening to, and then as we're previewing it, I would dial it up and down a little bit until I'm happy with what's being removed, and still okay with the voice that's supposed to be there, because this will sound a little bit, let me go back to my selector guy here, go back here and we'll listen to it a little bit. You'll notice that we're not peaking as much. We're still peaking, but we're not peaking as much. But it's a little bit better. And if we do a selection here, we can loop through it. It's a little bit better. We're not hitting our peaks as much up here, still a little bit. And you will notice this hard edge here. That is, we're not getting anything above that frequency-wise. So, down to 10,000 we can cut. And if you remember, 60,000 is human hearing. And this is all just little bitty parts in this music. So this is that intro music is really, really hot. So, when initially recording, if you were to turn down the music a little bit in your recording, this actually wouldn't be peaking at all. So, we will start there, and then I will figure out how this program works. This program is still relatively new to me. So anyway, using a high pass, which allows higher frequencies to pass through, and a low pass, which allows lower frequencies to pass through, you can cut off the alternative tops and bottoms, or there is also a high cut and a low cut, and those do exactly what they say. The high cut cuts out the top frequencies up here. The low cut cuts out the low frequencies up there, and I think the cut frequency ones are a little easier to understand just in my brain. So when we're going to go to the next bit here, so that was my visualize then attack. I can see that the bottom frequencies is where everything is cutting out. So if I were to cut this off and just use that in the music, you would miss the bass drums, you'd miss the bass, but you would still get the beat a little bit from the music in general, and it wouldn't peak as badly, and you wouldn't hear that that you hear in the sound, which is the indicator when you have the headphones on that something bad is happening to your audio. So we're going to go back to our waveform, and we're going to look, and we see that this is dialogue. The dialogue-y stuff here tends to be in these high peaks where people are talking. This sounds like this.
All right.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So
I'm not actually sure what he's saying here because, again, I can't hear it because I'm not monitoring the sound so that it doesn't feed back for you guys. So here's what we're doing. We're going to look at this section, because I know in this section he has handed over his iPhone to the other guy, and I heard something when I watched it the first time that made my fillings rattle. And I know that if I switch to the frequency, the spectrum analyzer, I can see that really clearly right here, this big line. Let's take a listen to that, shall we? And if we listen to this chunk, you're going to hear it, and it's going to be really, really screamy loud if you have that hearing remaining after all of the rock and roll that you kids are listening to. Hold on.
Yeah, so the front push kick is a very intuitive kick that non-martial artists can pick up. So
really, really far up there, there's a high-pitched frequency scream that's really painful to listen to. And if you'll bear with me for 1 second, I have to make this so that I can hear it. Okay, now let's play this.
The front push kick is a very intuitive kick that non-martial artists...
Okay, really high up there, we've got this happening, which is difficult to listen to. That frequency that I'm looking at, here's what it sounds like.
Yeah, so the front push kick is a very intuitive kick that
it's a very high frequency pitch, and we're going to get rid of it using... let's see what we've got here. Looks like that basic stuff isn't in there, but we've got a notch filter. We like us a notch filter. First thing we need to do is we need to find what frequency we're cutting out. And so we can start zooming in here. I'm actually going to slide this over so it's butting right up against that. And it looks like it's just below 7,000, so 7 kilohertz, right around it. So now if we take a look at that notch filter, and we'll set that at 7,000. And the higher value reduces the width. So basically, if we want to catch more frequency here, what we would do is we would use a smaller value like the 1. And if we just want to pinpoint that, and since we're looking at a very short frequency here, a lot of graphical stuff does this a lot better. So let's take a look at the Apple ones here. Parametric. I think this will allow us to, yeah, we can preview it here. So we're going to dial this into our 7,000 here. And we're going to crank our Q all the way up. And now the trick to this, and how to do this in real time, is that we want to crank our gain all the way up while we're previewing what we're doing the effect on. This is going to hurt a little bit. Hold on to your fillings.
Yeah, so the front push kick is a very intuitive kick that
so you can hear that way up top. And we'd like to get rid of that. Let's actually widen that out a little bit, and I'm going to drop this down to 6,900, and we'll preview it again.
Yeah, so the front push kick is a very
there, it's much louder. that really, really high-pitched thing. Now that we've found the frequency, which we can find by zooming in, and we've found with a high Q value, which makes a spike right here at 6900, and we've cranked the gain all the way up so that we can hear it as loudly as possible. Now, if we slide the gain down, making it the gain is volume, is basically all it means. So we'll hit preview.
Yeah, so the front push kick is a very intuitive kick that
and that whistle is gone. In fact, if we hit OK now, and it sounded also like it didn't affect his voice too badly. So now we can see that that is much cooler in color. Now there's still a little bit there because we didn't take it all out. We could run it again to take it out all the way, but you still want something here. We're just trying to get rid of that really, really sharp, screamy, high-pitched thing. So if we play from here and we go across, you'll actually hear it start back up again right as we hit this point here.
Near my head to protect it, left arm up high. And for the kick itself, all you have to do is this. Take your strong leg, put it in the front.
And if you can't hear it, you might be able to feel it. It's called feeling a sound, and it tends to be something that doesn't register, but you sense that there is something wrong in the sound. And generally, if you sense something is wrong in the sound, it is. And this is a way to visualize it so that you can attack it. We have covered both of the topics. It has taken me less than a half an hour, which was the previous two versions, because I tend to ramble, and I'm going to call it good for now. I'm going to pimp out my website, YAFIunderground.com. It's still a bit old. I'm currently working at redoing it, but I'm going to mix together this sound. I'm going to mix together the video I've just shot, and I will put that up on YouTube as the third installment. Thanks for visiting with us. Down below, please like us. Please subscribe up above. Leave some comments if you want to hear us cover something in sound, if you have specific sound issues, if you have clips that you'd like me to help you out with. Please feel free to leave a comment and ask those questions, and I will gladly do so. I will leave you now, and we will see you next time. Bye.